anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam goptritve varanam tata atmanikshepa karpanye shadvida sharanagatihi. Ladies. Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam shvaso te sharanam gatya atmanikshepa karpanye shadvida sharanagatihi. Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam shikshati vishvasho goptritve varanam tata atmanikshepa karpanye shadvida sharanagatihi. Anukulyasya. Of anything that resists devotional service to the Lord. Sankalpaha. Acceptance. Pratikulyasya. Of anything that hinders devotional service. Varjanam. Complete rejection. Rakshishyati. He will protect. Iti. Thus. Vishvasaho. Strong conviction. Goptritve. In being the guardian. Like the father or husband. Master or maintainer. Varanam. Acceptance. Tata. As well as. Atmanikshepa. Full self-surrender. Karpanye. And humility. Shatvidha. Sixfold. Sharana agati. Process of surrender. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The 6 divisions of surrender are the acceptance of those things favorable to devotional service, the rejection of unfavorable things, the conviction that Krishna will give protection, the acceptance of the Lord as one's guardian or master, full self-surrender, and humility. Purport. One who is fully surrendered is qualified with the 6 following characteristics. Number 1, the devotee has to accept everything that is favorable for the rendering of transcendental loving service to the Lord. 2, he must reject everything unfavorable to the Lord's service. This is also called renunciation. 3, a devotee must be firmly convinced that Krishna will give him protection. No one else can actually give one protection, and being firmly convinced of this is called faith. This kind of faith is different from the faith of an impersonalist who wants to merge into the Brahman effulgence in order to benefit by cessation of repeated birth and death. A devotee wants to remain always in the Lord's service. In this way, Krishna is merciful to his devotee and gives him all protection from the dangers found on the path of devotional service. 4, the devotee should accept Krishna as his supreme maintainer and master. He shouldn't think that he's being protected by a demigod. He should depend only on Krishna, considering him the only protector. The devotee must be firmly convinced that within the 3 worlds he has no protector or maintainer other than Krishna. 5, self-surrender means remembering that one's activities and desires are not independent. The devotee is completely dependent on Krishna, and he acts and thinks as Krishna desires. 6. The devotee is meek and humble. Lord Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, text number 15, Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto mataks maktir jnanam apohanam cha vedaischa sarvairaham vedyo vedanta krit veda videva chaham. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. End of quote. Situated in everyone's heart, Krishna deals differently according to the living entity's position. The living entity's position is to be under the protection of the illusory energy or under Krishna's personal protection. When a living entity is fully surrendered, he is under the direct protection of Krishna, and Krishna gives him all intelligence by which he can advance in spiritual realization. The non-devotee, however, being under the protection of the illusory energy, increasingly forgets his relationship with Krishna. Sometimes it is asked how Krishna causes one to forget. Krishna personally causes his devotee to forget material activities, and through the agency of Maya, Krishna causes the non-devotee to forget his devotional service to the Lord. This is called apohana. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Ginanjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Caitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Giramhayam Dadati Svapadantikam Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Giradhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripadamaham vande Sri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Caitanyeshwaram Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. So with the blessings of all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, here Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Lord, is instructing his dear devotee Sanatana Goswami in the process of devotional service. And he's quoting a number of very famous verses from various scriptures, mainly Srimad Bhagavatam. Others are also appearing in Nectar of Devotion, etc. That's why Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, said that if all the books in the universe go missing, but we have Chaitanya Charitamrita, nothing is lost, nothing is missing. Why? Because the essence of Bhagavad Gita is in Chaitanya Charitamrita. The essence of Srimad Bhagavatam is in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, have you read Chaitanya Charitamrita? Okay. And you will not miss out on anything if you just read Chaitanya Charitamrita. In fact, in the later years, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would just read Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he mentioned that there will be a time when people will learn Bengali just to be able to read Chaitanya Charitamrita. But now we're very fortunate because Srila Prabhupada has translated Chaitanya Charitamrita. And the devotees have translated it into so many languages. So all this nectar is now available in all these languages. So we're very fortunate. We're very blessed. So today, let's go through the verses. We have first the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 48th chapter. And who is talking there? Anybody knows? 1048? Let's look it up. It's all there. 48th chapter. Krishna pleases his devotee. Text 26. Akrura. Yeah, Akrura is speaking. Doesn't go further than 36. Okay, 26. There we are. So Akrura is speaking, and he's glorifying the Lord. What happens in this chapter? So he's saying, what learned person would approach anyone but you for shelter, when you're the affectionate, grateful, and truthful well-wisher of your devotees? To those who worship you in sincere friendship, you reward everything they desire, even your own self, yet you never increase or diminish. So, Krishna had promised Akrura that after killing Kamsa, he would visit his home. And now, Krishna kept his promise. Are you keeping your promises? Your vows? Your vratas? It's important. If you want to be known as an honorable person, it's important to keep one's vows, one's word of honor. So Akrura is recognizing this, and he's glorifying the Lord as Rita Gira, one who is true to his word. A man, a word. Ein Mann, ein Wort. No? Not like a lot of talk and then, situation, time, things have changed. I didn't really mean it, or, who can be blamed for this? Okay, I'm not going to take responsibility. No, you keep up your side of the bargain. Even if situations and circumstances may not favor that, but still, you keep it. The Lord is kritagya, grateful for whatever little worship a devotee offers. And even if the devotee forgets, the Lord does not. So Krishna never forgets. He never forgets what the devotees have done for him. And he never forgets the devotees' welfare. He's always very concerned about the devotees' well-being. Kritagya. The opposite would be akritagya, an ungrateful person. One time Shankaracharya was walking on the road and he saw one chandala. You know what a chandala is? A dog eater. He was walking in front of him, and in one hand he was holding a human skull with dog meat in it. Like the top of the skull is missing, so it's a nice little container, So, and he had dog meat in there. And in the other hand, he was holding a pitcher. You know what a pitcher is? Eine Karaffe, no? To hold liquids. A pitcher of Ganges water. And he was spreading Ganges water wherever he walked. Shankaracharya saw this, and he was a little puzzled, because it seemed like quite contradictory types of behaviors. So the Chandala noticed this, and he responded to Shankaracharya that you might be wondering, why am I doing what am I doing? He said, it is obvious. I am a Chandala. I am eating dog flesh. Yet, I am carrying this pitcher of Ganges water. Why am I doing this? Because just in case some akritagya, some ungrateful person has walked in front of me on the road, I don't want to step on the same earth that person walks on. Because there are so many types of prayaschita or atonement, even for doing very terrible things. I'm not going to mention them. But if you come in touch with an akritagya, even if you only step on the same earth, on the same spot that person has stepped, there's no atonement for that. So that's why I'm spreading the Ganges water on the earth wherever I'm walking. So I don't have to be exposed to ungrateful people. So, if we're ungrateful, that shows that that's really the lowest. That's lower than being a dog eater. So Akrura is glorifying Krishna and saying that you kept your side of the bargain. When did Krishna give him that promise? You remember? When Krishna was brought to Mathura by Akrura, and then Akrura said, well, here we are, my town, my home, Mikasa Sukasa, come here, visit my home. And Krishna said, I got some business to take care of. But after I took care of business, meaning killing Kamsa, and doing a few other things in town, I will certainly come and visit your home. And Krishna he never forgets his promise. And Krishna went and he visited Akrura's home. So Akrura is very grateful. He's glorifying Krishna in this beautiful verse. And he is very happy to perform his service, even though Akrura's service is not a very enjoyable service. He has to do things which makes other devotees upset. But still, he does his service dutifully. He was happy to go to Braj. He was happy to visit Krishna's own abode and to bring Krishna to Mathura. Yet, because he did not console the Brijbasis, Jai, Shishi Prani Singhadev, Ki Jai. He did not console the Brijbasis sufficiently. He did not make the endeavor to appease them. He just went there and grabbed Krishna and brought him to Mathura. So he got some heavy hearts, some heavy emotions came his way. And that's why later on, he had to face many difficulties. Just not going to spoil it, but it's coming up in the 10th canto. Just in a little while. You're in 4th canto now. So just give it a few years and you'll be there. Krishna will have to, our Akrura will have to face some very difficult situations in relationship to the Shyamantaka jewel. So, whenever an experienced person develops real knowledge of Krishna and his transcendental qualities, he naturally gives up all other engagements and renders service to the Lord. Uddhava gives evidence concerning this. So this is the segue or the introduction to the next verse that is about to come, which is a very popular verse, Aho Bhakti Yang Stana Kala Kutam, which is also a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto. Oh, how wonderful it is! Putana, the sister of Bakasura, wanted to kill Krishna by smearing deadly poison on her breasts and having Krishna take it. Nonetheless, Lord Krishna accepted her as his mother, and thus she attained the destination befitting Krishna's mother. Of whom should I take shelter but Krishna, who is most merciful? So, we're going to see in the 3rd canto what were the circumstances there. So this is remembrance of Lord Krishna. You remember Vidura? He asked a whole bunch of questions to Maitreya, and they were remembering Krishna's pastimes, the ones in Vrindavan and also the ones outside of Vrindavan. So this is text 23. So Uddhava was asked about Krishna's pastimes, and Uddhava gave a synopsis of the Lord's pastimes, and this verse appears there. He is just paraphrasing. He's just giving very short sneak preview of all the pastimes that are about to come in the 10th canto. It's quite amazing that he's just giving this in essence without going into details. So the pastime is very well known. Putana, the first demon that appeared in Vrindavan, trying to kill Krishna. she was a witch. Now, witches can change their form. They can also ride on broomsticks or on sticks of trees. And they can pretty much take any form they like in order to perform their nefarious activities. So Putana, even though being a Rakshashi, a man-eater, she had killed so many babies in Braj. Under the order of Kamsa, she went there. But when she went to meet Krishna, she took on a different form as a very, very beautiful, beautiful lady. And everyone was so enamored that they thought that this must be Lakshmi, who came to choose her husband. This must be the wife of Lord Shiva. This must be some devata, some celestial lady, because she looks so exquisite. And everybody just gave her way. Okay, you can go. Pick up Krishna. It's perfectly fine. You're certainly qualified to do so. So she was looking at Krishna, and Krishna closed his eyes. Why did Krishna close his eyes? He did not want to see her face. Why did he not want to see her face? Because she's a Rakshashi. She's a demoness, and she has killed countless babies. So he didn't want to see her face. Why else did Krishna keep his eyes closed?
He felt some, he was taken aback a little because the first demon who came was a lady.
Yeah, he was a little embarrassed. He was like, oh no, oh no. I'm going to have to kill this woman, you know? And it's not appropriate. It's not proper. Because women, even though they may say or do things that sometimes are terrible, but they're never to be killed or chastised in such a severe way. So Krishna felt a little shy, a little inhibited. So he also closed his eyes because of that. What else? Okay, interesting. I never heard that one. And we got one more. Krishna wanted to encourage her. Okay, if I look at her and she realizes, uh-oh, this is not some baby. This is the Supreme Lord. She might get frightened. She might get scared. And she might run away. So he wanted to encourage her in her activities. So he closed his eyes. And then, what happened? She just held him on her lap, and she put her nipple of her breast that she had smeared very, very strong poison, that anybody who would touch that poison, instantly they would die. She pushed that into Krishna's mouth, and Krishna very firmly grabbed her breast, and he sucked out the poison, the milk, and her life air, and liberated her. And then later, he gave her not just any type of liberation, not just, okay, you can merge in my body, you can be in the Brahmajyoti, or you can, be somewhere peaceful. No. He gave her the position of a nurse in the spiritual world, which is a very exalted position, like a mother, a nurse. So how merciful is Krishna that someone who comes with such evil intention want to kill Krishna? Krishna gives that person the exalted position of a mother. Why? Because Krishna said, oh, okay, you've done a lot of bad things and there's a lot of bad stuff happening here. But there is one good thing. You're kind of acting like my mother, Like you take me on your lap and, and you smile and you give your breast milk. So he said, okay, a lot of bad, but something good. Krishna took away the bad, but he focused on the good. What should we do as devotees? We focus on all the bad, right? We criticize and we find faults and we I mean, of course, if you're making movies or you're training people or you're in leadership or you're a parent or you have to point out room for improvement. But as devotees of Krishna, we should really take this to heart. Message to self. That if you want to be a devotee of Krishna, we have to focus on the good, even if there is a lot of bad. Srila Prabhupada saw the people who walked through the door, and he saw exactly who they were, because a pure devotee is Trikalagya. He knows past, present, and future. But because he doesn't dwell on the past, he doesn't dwell on the negative, he doesn't dwell on the deficiency, he sees the future, he sees the potential. He sees, okay, there is a problem, but there's also an opportunity. So let's focus on the opportunity, and let's try to make that potential bigger. Let's try to improve. Let's try to magnify the good stuff. And that's what he did. And that's what he did. And that's what happened, because Prabhupada treated everybody who walked through the door as a future leader of the Hare Krishna movement. They became the future leaders of the Hare Krishna movement. And many of them did amazing, wonderful service. And some of them did terrible things. But Prabhupada always chose to see the positive. One time, a former servant of his had left him for many years, went into deep Maya, chose to completely forget Krishna consciousness and all his vows and promises. But when Prabhupada was in town, he went to see him. And Prabhupada really appreciated that. Because there's nothing worse than if somebody who's close to you, like, spiritual master disciple, this is like father-child or father-daughter, or son type of a relationship. And then that person just disappears. You imagine? You have a child and they just vanish. Nobody knows where they are. Nobody knows what they're doing. This is really troublesome for the parents. So Prabhupada appreciated that. So he said, please cook for me. And the devotees were saying, Prabhupada, not following anything. He's in Maya, doing all the bad stuff. And Prabhupada completely ignored all these comments. Just said, please cook for me. Why? Because he wanted to encourage that person. He wanted to appreciate that person. That person had been his personal servant. So had spent quality time with Prabhupada, served him, pleased him, and then fell off and went into Maya. But Prabhupada saw the service. He didn't see that episode of what happened in that time. So this is Krishna's attitude and the pure devotee's attitude. So we should also take on such an attitude. Of course, again, if you're in a position of management, sometimes certain people, they need a break. They have to be somewhere else in order to cool down before they're again fit for public consumption or to live in the association of devotees. Yet we should always encourage people. And how do we encourage people? By banning them? No, by giving them service. Just like when Lord Caitanya traveled all throughout India. Have you heard of Kala Krishna Das? How many of you know Kala Krishna Das? Okay, that's about 4. That's not enough. You have to know who is Kala Krishna Das. Kala Krishna Das is the personal servant of Lord Caitanya when he traveled in South India. So he was there. He was carrying the Lord's clothes. He was making fires. He was helping him with bathing and cooking and begging alms, etc. So the Lord Caitanya could just chant and dance. That's all the Lord was doing practically. Kala Krishna Das would take care of everything else. But at one point there was a problem. What was that problem? There were some gypsies, patataris, and they had women, and with those women they enticed Kala Krishna Das to come to their camp. That was their Bhakta program, That's how they recruited people. They sent out, different groups have imitated that and just sent out women to try to, get new converts for the religion. But Lord Caitanya, he personally went there to the camp of those gypsies, those Bhattataris, and he grabbed his servant Kala Krishnadas by the hair, and he dragged him. And he dragged him back. The Bhattataris got very angry. They picked up weapons and wanted to charge to attack the Lord, but the weapons turned against them and were harming them. So, when they came back to Jagannath Puri, Lord Chaitanya said, I have no use for this person. So he rejected Kala Krishnadas. The next day, Lord Nityananda, Swarup Damodar, Jagadananda, and Mukunda, all the four of them, came to Lord Chaitanya and said, we have to send a person to Navadvip to tell your mother, Sachi Mata, that you have returned in a healthy, in a happy, in a joyous mood. So somebody has to bring this good news to your mother. Guess who they sent? Mahaprabhu said, yeah, you can do so. Who did they send? Kala Krishnadas. The one that Lord Chaitanya the day before rejected. Not your most likely candidate, right? To be sent on a confidential mission. Why did they send him? There were thousands of devotees who they could have sent. Why did they send Kala Krishnadas, who just had been rejected by Lord Chaitanya? Pandit.
Maybe because he knew that he messed it up more or less, and therefore he was more careful than when he had his next service. He lost his service, and then he got again service. Therefore he was maybe more careful.
Because they saw some remorse in his heart. These four devotees, they saw that he actually felt remorse. So if something goes bad, but we don't take responsibility, we don't acknowledge, and we don't feel bad about it, that means we haven't really learned the lesson. So that means we got to face the music again and again and again. But Kala Krishnadas, he actually understood his mistake, and he was apologetic. But Lord Chaitanya was very firm, he's very strong. Why? Because he's God. He has to show this is the standard. There's no, okay, whatever, all right, fine. No. He had to show what is the proper standard. But the devotees are more merciful than the Lord. They saw there's great potential. He's been with Lord Chaitanya for so many months. He has received so much mercy. He experienced so many miracles. Imagine, you see the elephants and tigers and deer dance and chant Hare Krishna together, embracing, kissing. Pretty far out darshan, right? Kala Krishnadas had that darshan. He saw the Lord kicking tigers on the road and doing all kinds of things. Balabhadra Bhattacharya, yes. But he also, Kala Krishnadas also saw a lot of miracles. It's what happens sometimes, you get too emotional and stories get messed up. That's why they say because news back then wasn't by the internet, but you would pick up news in the marketplace or at the well, where you fetch water or where you wash clothes. So then the stories how Krishna killed the demons, they got muddled, they got mixed up. Because people were telling them, and then they were mixing them with other stories. Like in the Bhagavatam, we have Varaha, and in one, you have actually different Varahas who are mentioned in one pastime. So sometimes it gets a little jumbled up. So, thank you for reminding me of that. So they saw that Kala Krishnadas had the right attitude, even though he made a serious mistake. And they wanted to give him service. They wanted to engage him in devotional service. And that's why they sent him to Navadvip to pass this joyful news to Mother Sachi. And he went there. And he stayed there for quite a while. And he talked about Lord Chaitanya to Mother Sachi and to the devotees. And they were so happy. They were so blissful. They bestowed their full mercy and blessings on Kala Krishnadas, which is exactly what he needed, right? So we should always try to see the good and fan that. And when there's a problem, try to either rectify it or minimize it. And how to rectify it? Sometimes to get rid of bad things is very difficult. Have you noticed? If you have bad habits, it's hard to go after them. It's hard to weed them out, to root them out. But the next verse will solve this issue. So then, the next verse is, there are two kinds of devotees. Those are fully satiated and free from material desires. They're satiated by the practice of devotional service. So they're very, very joyful. They're very happy. So because of that, they have got no material interests, no material affliction. They're those who fully surrender to the lotus feet of the Lord. Their qualities are one and the same, but those who are fully surrendered to Krishna's lotus feet are qualified with another transcendental quality, Atma Samarpana, full surrender without reservation. And then today's verse on the board, the 6 divisions of surrender are the acceptance of those things favorable to devotional service, the rejection of unfavorable things, the conviction that Krishna will give protection, the acceptance of the Lord as one's guardian or master, full self-surrender, and humility. So, yama niyama, that's pretty obvious. Things to do, things to avoid, right? Pretty clear. Many lists in our scriptures of what are favorable activities and what are unfavorable activities. So we're not going to discuss them. The conviction that Krishna will give protection. Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kahe Sudrida Nishchoy. Krishna Bhakti Koila Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. Having firm faith. Shraddha means not just, okay, I believe you. No, it means like, Shraddha means actually to give one's heart. Are you ready to give your heart? You only have one. Right? It's kind of a, okay, I got one. So where I put my heart? Where do I going to give my heart? That's Shraddha. That's that kind of faith that we should have in Krishna. We're distributing books and prasad and doing Harinam in Guyana, in the Caribbean. And we met a man on a marketplace, and he took the prasad, he took the book, he made his donation, and I just asked him, so, how is things? How are you doing? And he looked at me, because it was kind of unusual probably, because in the marketplace there's so much transaction going on. And all of a sudden, like a vendor or somebody asks you, so how are you doing? So he was a little perplexed. But then he told me, at the end of the day, not your family, not your friends, no one can protect you except Krishna. And I thought, wow, thank you. Nice realization. Have you noticed sometimes people, just seemingly regular folks, they may come here, or you may meet them somewhere, you interact with them, and all of a sudden they give you crystal clear, like some sutra, like, okay, boom, this is where that's where it's at. No one can protect you except Krishna. Are you convinced of that? What about plan B? What about plan C? Okay, I still got my little flat with mom, and I still have, some other ideas, some other plans in case other things fail. Money in the bank or credit card, or I know people. Has your mind ever worked along those lines? Or is it just my mind? 2 people are smiling. 1 person is raising his hand. Okay, I feel better already now. Okay? Misery loves company, right? No, that is the nature of a conditioned soul. That we're always looking for, okay, how can I avoid surrender? You noticed? Plan making, but not for devotional service. How to avoid surrender. Using our intelligence to come up with all good reasons, even sometimes so-called Krishna conscious reasons, of why not to surrender. Who is a good example of this? besides myself? Arjuna, Vishada Yoga, yeah. Did he give a lot of good ideas of why he should not do what he's supposed to do? Yeah, plenty. What about the women? What about the children? What about this? What about that? What about the other thing? And Krishna, what did he say? Oh yeah, you're talking like a big man, making a nice presentation. But actually, you're speaking like a fool. And who else? Remember Shukracharya talking to Bali Maharaj? And saying, no, not a good idea. No. Don't. That's Vishnu. He's going to take everything, including what you're supposed to pay to me because I'm your priest, So don't go, don't do it, okay, basically. Don't do it. Not a good idea. So, people using their intellect to figure out how not to surrender to Krishna. So, but devotees, they are firmly convinced that Krishna will give them protection. Why? Because no one else actually can give protection. Deha patra kalatradishu atma sainyeshu asatsu api tesham pramata nidanam pashanapina pashyati. Fallible fighting soldiers. We think this body is going to protect me. Have you ever thought, my body is going to take care of me? My body is going to be, beautiful and strong and healthy and very, valiant. And then all of a sudden, you realize the opposite. That this body is actually a source of a lot of pain and is a temple of disease. And the older you get, the more evident it becomes. In youth, you can still keep up some sort of idea. But then it becomes more and more obvious. Then we think, well, okay, but what about my wife or my husband? They look pretty good, they're pretty strong, they're pretty capable. What about my relatives? What about my children? Well, if you can't take care of yourself, they can't take care of themselves. So how come they're going to take care of you? They can't even protect themselves. What to speak of helping you? But then we think, wow, but we got a great country here, right? Great nation. Deutschland. Daityastan. Isn't that a wonderful place? We got Autobahn, no speed limits. Everyone in the world knows that there is a place on the planet where there is no speed limit. Because if you want to sell those, and I'm not going to mention any brands because we don't get paid for any endorsements, but then you got to have those kind of situations. But if you study history just a little bit, you will actually get to know that most people in the world were killed by their own governments. I know this is a, family show and we got children here, but sorry to break the bad news to you, that your government may not entirely have your best interest at heart. Sorry for that piece of information. So, and most people in the world historically have been killed by their own governments. So these are all fallible fighting soldiers. They can't protect you. Only Krishna can protect you. So to be firmly convinced about this is called, this is what is being spoken about here. Then, acceptance of the Lord as one's guardian or master. What does that mean? That Krishna is always looking out for our very self-interest. He's our surit, he's our well-wisher, and he's also our master. Bhoktaram yagatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suridham sarvabhutanam gyatva shanti richati. Shanti, shanti, shanti. Without peace, there is no happiness. You want to become happy? You got to be peaceful. You want to be peaceful? You got to know that Krishna is the proprietor, that Krishna is the enjoyer, and that Krishna is your well-wishing friend. Because if you don't know that, and you're not convinced of that, then you're going to think, oh no, that's me, right? I'm the one who's controlling things. Do you like control? Anybody here? Yes? Yes? Yes or yes? Huh? Very much so. But we have all realized over time that we are not in control. Have you noticed? You have noticed, right? We have noticed to some extent that we are not in control. But to be firmly convinced that Krishna actually is in control, because if all these universes emanate from his body or the body of Mahavishnu, and everything is according to his plan, then that means he is in control. And I am not. That's the good news. So to know that as factual, not just theoretical or as an idea, but to be factually convinced of that even all the bad things that are happening, somehow Krishna has allowed it to happen. So what is the lesson? And what is the opportunity? Just like here, we have this great country which has done many great things, and some other things, and there's 100 million people here, believe it or not. And there's a lot of opportunity for service, right? There's a lot of people who come now from all the parts of the world to Germany for many types of reasons. But it's a great opportunity for sharing Krishna consciousness with them. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah? You don't have to go to Somalia. You don't have to go to Eritrea. You don't have to go to Ouagadougou or to Timbuktu or to, Khabarovsk or Sakhalin. No, they all come to Germany. So you can just walk out the door, go to the Fußgängerzone, and you'll meet everybody, including Syria and Afghanistan and all the other bright places of the planet. And everyone is here in Germany. And they're looking. What are they looking for? Krishna, yeah. They just call it differently, They call it money, wealth. They call it beautiful things. They call it fame, to become popular. They call it power, strength. Have you seen people who are trying to get strong and powerful? They're trying to get education. Even some people are trying to get away from everything and become a little more detached and renounced, believe it or not. So what are they looking for? Krishna. They're looking for Bhagavan, Krishna. But they're looking in the wrong place. So the devotees are there to somehow inspire them to see Krishna in its real beauty. And you can only see Krishna in its real beauty, and this is my closing point for today, through the eyes of devotion. Pramanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santak sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti yam shyama sundaram achintya gunak swarupam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. And what does it mean to have eyes which are smeared with the salve of love of God? It means that we see through the eyes of, how can I serve Krishna? How can I do devotional service? How can I engage others in devotional service? And that's the mood of Sankirtan. That's the mood of Prahlad Maharaj. That's the mood of Srimati Radharani and the Gopis. That's the mood of our Parampara, of Srila Prabhupada, all our spiritual masters. That's the mood that attracts and captivates Krishna's attention. So much so that he appears as Caitanya Mahaprabhu to actually relish that mood of Sankirtan himself. Hare Krishna. Questions, comments, or reflections? Yes, and yes.
You made this nice point about empowerment, and empowerment even, if one makes a mistake, still, you brought this example of Kala Krishna does. But in other pastime of Mahaprabhu, with Chota Haridas, we see exactly the opposite. So how we bring this together?
Well, the offenses were different, you see. Kala Krishna Das' situation he wasn't a sannyasi.
Okay.
And okay, he did something, he got bewildered, he got confused. Now, luckily, we're not Yamaraj. We don't have to judge, on gravity of offense. But both pastimes are there in Caitanya Charitamrita to teach many lessons. And the devotees are happy to act in whichever role, even if it is sometimes to teach those lessons to others. Because even in the pastime, which is a pretty heavy pastime, with Junior Haridas, who got rejected and who then committed suicide in Prayag, but still, in his spiritual form, he was singing for Lord Chaitanya, for his pleasure. So Lord Chaitanya, he had to set the example that this is not proper. But still, he appreciated his singing and he appreciated his complete self-surrender, his dedication, even to the point of he gave up his life because he saw that this is not acceptable and I want to purely serve the Lord. Of course, it's not something that can be imitated. Like one time, Prabhupada was quoting this pastime, and one of the sannyasis who had a problem, he disappeared and he committed suicide. But when he disappeared, he didn't hear when Prabhupada later on in that morning walk, he actually mentioned that I'm not Lord Chaitanya. He's God. He has to set the example. But I need all the help I can get. So he would personally, sometimes he married some sannyasis who had fall downs, and he got them married, which is very unusual, very unorthodox, you can say. So, which also shows that the devotees are more merciful than the Lord. So, different lessons from these different pastimes. Okay? Go ahead.
Again, with the empowerment, I mean, it seems to me that in this moment when we're not pure devotees like Srila Prabhupada, we cannot give full empowerment because we're not convinced that we're not the supreme controller. So I think sometimes this is maybe missing nowadays, that we don't get full empowerment because somebody thinks I still have to control, or we also don't want to empower another person because we think we still have to control.
Yes.
We have to hold.
Very common scenario. That people will only give you as much information that you can do the minimal task that you have to do. They'll never teach you how to overthrow them. They'll never teach you how to go against them. So, but when we understand the process of Krishna consciousness, which is a process of empowerment, Krishna Shakti Vina Nahetara Pravartana, it's Krishna's potency. It's not anyone else's. And it is coming down in parampara. And either we get on with the process and we take that selfless leadership role as a servant leader, or else we'll just be sidelined and pushed to the side. Nobody can stand and block the current. You can't block the sun. Have you tried to block the sun? It's not possible, right? So how long are you going to keep people down, or are you going to keep people away? There will be, and there has been, revolutions and uprisings. But ultimately, devotees don't really take interest in those things because they know that Krishna has a plan, and just through the material energy, he can remove any obstacle and any person and rectify any situation. They don't bother, and they're not getting into this type of, oh yeah. Whenever I travel, I go to places, not here in Germany, but in certain other places where people have a little more fire in their belly, they're a little more passionate, like in the Latin world or in the Caribbean. And I arrive at the airport, And I ask them when they pick me up, so how is things? How is it going? And they say, we have to get rid of management. All of them. They're all corrupt. They're all incapable. Yeah. And I say, so you're going to do it, right? You're going to, not me. No, not me. No, not me. Huh? But we got to get rid of management. All of them. You know, back in the day, in the 80s, we also had that idea sometimes. Because we went on Sankirtan, we distributed a few books. And, confirmed, and when we came back from the marathon, usually, first week of January, we decided that we got to get rid of management because they're all in Maya. So ceremoniously, we carried out the guillotine. You know the guillotine? That little device that gives a clear cut, you know, like a little close shave to the head, like on the neck side. And we got rid of the temple president because we thought they're all in Maya, you know, they didn't go out, they didn't do book distribution, they just stayed home, you know, enjoying all the Mahaprasad and doing all the things. And so, but then after a couple of years, there was no more temple presidents, no more volunteers, you know, to have their heads cut off. So then we didn't have temple presidents anymore. And the next thing that came in was a board. Huh? A camel is a horse that has been designed by a committee, by a board. You know, everybody says, yeah, we should have this also, and we should have this also, and that also, that's also nice. And at the end, you know, they had a camel, but not a horse, which means
A camel is a horse
designed by a board, yeah. So they had the mission to actually design a beautiful, strong, functional horse, but it ended up being a camel because some person had the brilliant idea. No. It's got to be able to store water, you know, in its hump, and it has to be able to eat thorns and twigs, you know, and has to have very long legs, and you know. So at the end, it was a camel. It wasn't a horse, which is a good animal for other purposes. But if you want to run a race, you know. Anyway, that was a joke, as a side, not to avoid the other questions, not just trying to run out the clock here. So then we had to acknowledge that maybe the preachers, the Sankirtan devotees, the Brahmins trying to interfere with management was not such a brilliant idea, and it was not the most productive way how to interact with administration. And so, you know, live and learn, pay the price and move on. So we're very happy to see here that you have a young generation of enthusiasts who are collaborating and working together under Srila Prabhupada's direction and the mandate of the GBC, and cultivating this love and trust through open communication and cooperation, engaging in the Sankirtan movement. It's very attractive. It's very inspiring to see that it's actually working, and it's attracting more sincere people who also want to take part in the Sankirtan movement. So we should see that there are different ways how to do things. Besides, you know, totalitarianism or dictatorship or total chaos or just complete boredom through bureaucracy and endless meetings and talks. That people who have a sense of what needs to be done and how we can do this together with the people and the resources that Krishna has given us, that He has put at our disposal. Srila Prabhupada defines utsaha, or enthusiasm, to endeavor with intelligence in Krishna consciousness. You want to write that down? Srila Prabhupada defines enthusiasm, not just but to endeavor with intelligence in Krishna consciousness. I think that's a pretty nice definition of enthusiasm. Because sometimes we think, oh yeah, I'm very enthusiastic, but you know, it's easy to do disservice in the name of doing service. I just see what I want to do and how I want to do it, but I may not be so much considerate to what other devotees, like Akrura, he's very enthusiastic for his mission, but he did not pay much attention to the Brijbasis and the way how they wanted to serve Krishna. And that's why he got into trouble. And a similar thing can happen to us. And of course, we did not forget, but full surrender and humility, full self-surrender, that's really where it's at. Humility is a sign of spiritual advancement. And to be completely surrendered to Krishna voluntarily, that is actually the quality that encapsulates or it includes all the other qualities. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati yakinchana sarvais tatra samasate sura harava bhaktasya kuto mahat gunat manoratena satidavato bahi. If you just become Krishna conscious, you just become actually self-surrendered voluntarily to Krishna, you will develop all the good qualities of the demigods. And somebody may be very learned, may be very refined in their social dealings. Sometimes we say, oh, devotees, they're just, not professional. You heard that word? Not professional, right? Not really up to my standard. And other people, they're dealing very, very, nice according to etiquette and form and all that. But what's their intention? What's their motivation? It's exploitation. It's kam, krodh, lobh, moha, mada, matsarya, lust, anger, greed, envy, etc. So we should not fall for that. Because when there are good qualities, that's nice, we can appreciate that. But if there is no self-surrender to Krishna, then it's like a jewel on the head of a serpent. More dangerous. More dangerous. We have 2 more questions, and then we're going to close. Yes, quick.
Yes, I was thinking about making offenses. Like sometimes your mind is making offenses, but intellectually you want to appreciate it a lot. But your mind is so strong.
It shouldn't be intellectually, it should actually be in your heart.
Yeah.
Because if it happens in your mind, and then your mind, gives you so many reasons, I should appreciate him, but I really don't like him, And so I choose not to appreciate him because I just can't stand him.
No, but when you choose that you want to appreciate a person, but your mind is so present.
Yeah, then you have to understand that Krishna appreciates all the devotees. He even appreciates Putana. Is that person worse than Putana? Is that person so bad that it cannot be forgiven, cannot be appreciated? I don't think so. Putana was pretty bad. And Krishna said, okay, all right. And we had one more.
I find it difficult to understand what is the difference between Krishna as the protector and Krishna as the guardian. Where is the difference between those two?
Well, slightly different qualities, but very similar. That's why they're mentioned together. Guardian is more like he's guarding over us. And master is the one who rules. Master is the Lokapala. He's the in charge. He's the one who runs the show. So slightly different qualities of Krishna. A lot could be said, yes.
Prabhupada writes maintainer and master.
Maintainer.
Protector is more maybe from outside
Yeah.
influences, and maintainer is more from inside. It maintains, maintenance. I don't know. Because I had also this.
Yeah, when you hear master, it's like he's the boss. Okay, he's in charge. But maintainer means he maintains you. Like he maintains what you have, and he gives you what you lack. He also gives you the air, the sun, the water, the food. I mean, Krishna gives us everything. So why not be grateful and appreciate Krishna and say, okay, I get it. All right, it's not me. All right, it's Krishna. So, and then develop a mood of gratitude and selfless service, which will then culminate, it will then, in voluntary self-surrender. Okay, I totally dedicate myself to Krishna. That's Sharanagati. And that's what we're striving for. So, this is being discussed by Lord Chaitanya with Sanatana Goswami, and he's empowering Sanatana to write about this, to communicate this, to teach others about this. So you can see how Lord Chaitanya, he delegated, he empowered his different lieutenants, his different generals to fulfill different purposes of his mission. He didn't do it all by himself. He just passed the ball, he passed the torch to so many other qualified personalities, and was very happy to act through them. When Sanatana later on, at one point he wanted to give up his body because his body was diseased. And Lord Chaitanya was very upset, and he said, "You've already given your life to me. How can you destroy someone else's property?" And he's telling to somebody else, this person's a criminal. He's destroying somebody else's property. He has already surrendered, and now he's renegotiating, and he wants the easy way out, meaning suicide, and that's not acceptable. So, and that's all in Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's why it's important to study Chaitanya Charitamrita and contextualize it to understand how to actually perform devotional service in a way that's pleasing. That's actually giving pleasure to Krishna. And not in my own self-concocted way that, okay, I want to be a this, and that's why I'm going to act like that. And this is convenient for me. But not really, is this going to be pleasing to Krishna? Otherwise, we have all these different factions. The brahmacharis are doing their thing, the grihasthas are doing their thing, vanaprasthas, sannyas, everyone's in their own corner, doing their own stuff. It ends up like I was in Israel, in Jerusalem, the original temple of Christ, historic place. There's 3 different denominations who are holding services simultaneously in the same church and running through the church and trying to avoid each other and pretend that the others don't exist. And it's really weird. It's really strange. And we don't want that. We don't want that to happen. That the congregation comes and does kirtan and the brahmacharis all walk out. Oh no, we're not gonna be here for that. That's below us. That's not what we want. Prabhupada had women give class and sing kirtan. So just hint a little bit of, Of course, we can always say, what about this? What about that? This Swami said this Swami said that. Well, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, he's the one we're following, and he's the one who is our founder Acharya, and we're following his example. Every morning we hear Govinda prayers. Because it's kirtan, there are other people singing. You're not just hearing one woman sing, but there are other people singing. So I know the mind says, oh yeah, but I don't like this, and this is not good for me. Well, then why don't you find a cave somewhere in the mountain and find somebody, some man, who will bring you a little khichdi every now and then? Because you're going to have to deal with it that more than half of the planet is women. Sorry to break the news to you. And if you want to be a preacher and you want to interact and distribute books, you have to learn the art of coexisting in a constructive way. Otherwise, we may end up all with our own little idea of Krishna consciousness. There's 36,000 Christian denominations right now, and counting. Probably already a few thousand more. It's pretty impressive, right? Just a couple of Gaudiya groups. So let's not waste more time, energy, resources, real estate, money, and lawyer fees to try to create more little projects and groups and ideas. Why not just join hands and hearts under the banner of Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan movement by following Srila Prabhupada and his example, instead of taking extremists' approach, which are not sustainable. They have not been sustainable, they are not sustainable, and they will not be sustainable. Because the only thing that is sustainable is the Sankirtan movement of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And we have seen many people who went off to do their own thing. And it seems like it's more productive, right? Because you don't have to consult anybody. You're the boss, so you just consult with yourself, right? Basically, you're the GBC guru, temple president, and executor. So you just decide. But that doesn't really work on the long run, because you can't have all the answers, and you can't be everything to everyone. Have you noticed that we're limited in our capacity? Like, I'm already going over time, and some people are getting anxious. Don't worry, this is my last point. So, to see the potential in others and to see that Krishna can empower others to play certain roles. Even women. Prabhupada sent ladies and he sent couples out to preach. And they did. And they did wonderfully. And that's why Prabhupada was recognized, that because he had that vision, he had that understanding of the Yukta Vairagya principle, and he made room for ladies to stay in temples and to be engaged in the Sankirtan movement, that his mission was successful, whereas others' missions were not successful. They're having 1 or 2 festivals a year with a few old widows and 1 or 2 sannyasis. Sorry to break the reality, the facts of life. But that's what it is. So Prabhupada was successful because he understood how to apply things properly. And also to give us context and to warn us, okay, there are dangers and there are difficulties involved in this. And that's why we have to work conjointly. We have to work together on this. To just walk out and boycott is not the answer. Okay? So it's just something to think about. And then how it's going to be applied practically, that is time, place, and circumstance. Some places are very conservative, other places are more liberal, other places are somewhere in the middle. So you have to figure out how to make it work here with your contingency and with your congregation. Otherwise, if certain elements of the congregation feel that we're not welcomed here, we're not empowered here, we're not really asked to, we're just kept down and out, then it will stay very small. It will stay very limited. I just visited one place where formerly there were 40 brahmacharis and a sannyasi and traveling Harinam party and this and that. And now they're down to 4 people. And now they split into 2 temples, 2 temple rooms in a project with 5 devotees. So, what happened? That's exactly what I ask myself. What happened? Like sometimes you go to a certain place that formerly was very vibrant, and you go there and you ask yourself, what happened? Who died? Who died? Why is everything kaput? Why is the mood so down? I can tell you what happened. We didn't follow what Prabhupada gave us. We thought we have a better way of how to do it, a more efficient way, a more practical way. It doesn't work like that. There's no shortcut. We have to go with Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya's program. And that means we can't be cherry pickers, rosinen picker. We can't say, I like this, and the rest I just not want to deal with it. That's not permissible. We have to accept this in toto, in its entirety, even with the aspects that are not so easy and not so agreeable to me. It's not easy to live amongst a wide range of people and cooperate with them. But Krishna consciousness is the positive solution. So Krishna, he knows how to make things work. Thank you for taking this in the right way. Just extract the essence and try to apply it. And Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo, Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripasindubhyevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo.
Krishna